Suppose you come to a cinema, to a movie, and down there you look up here on the screen, and there is a story. There are people in the screen. They are interacting with each other, and down there you cry. You believe that what is happening on the screen is real, and that is why you shed a real tear, and you have real emotion. The suffering is real, the tear is real. But when you come up and you touch the screen, you don't see any person. It's only light, flickering light. You cannot talk to people. You cannot invite them to have tea. You cannot stop them. You cannot ask a question. Because this is not real. This is only a movie. Something not real and yet can create real suffering. The memories of the past are not real, are not reality. They are only pictures. And every time you watch the picture, you suffer. And that is why we are advised not to go back to the past and live in the past, get caught in the past. And that's part of the practice of living in the present moment. Mindfulness is to learn to live in the present moment, not to allow ourselves to slip back to the past in order to relive the past 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. If you have suffered in the past, and if you continue to suffer, if we go back to watch the film, we suffer again and again and again. Suppose you are a boat person. You have crossed the ocean and arrived safely and accepted into a third country. And you are now safe, you have a job. But you still have a picture of the ocean where you navigated as a boat person. Every time you see the ocean, you suffer. Because at that time you risk to sink at any time and devoured by the fish. Because crossing the ocean is very risky, and hundreds of thousands of people have died in the sea. So you still have that memory, you still have that picture taken. And that picture, every time you look, you feel the suffering again. But in fact, it is only a picture. You can get drowned, you can die in the ocean, but you cannot die in a picture. So something not real can create real suffering. And that is why we should tell ourselves, we should tell the child, the suffering, the wounded child in us, that she should not suffer anymore. We should take her hand and invite her to come to the present moment and to witness to all the wonders of life that are available in the present moment. Come with me, dear one. We have grown up. We are no longer afraid. We can defend ourselves. We are no longer vulnerable. We are no longer fragile. Don't be afraid anymore. You have to teach the child in you. You have to invite him or her to come with you and live your life in the present moment. That is the practice. That is mindfulness. Mindfulness is not to allow ourselves to get lost, to be caught in the memories of the past. Of course, we can study the past, but we are grounded in the present moment. If we are grounded, well grounded in the present moment, we can study the past without being sucked and overwhelmed by the past. The same thing is true with the future. We can bring the future back to the present moment and study the future and make plans for the future. But we don't have to get lost in the fear, in the uncertainty concerning the future, because the future has not yet come. It's only a ghost. And the past is already gone, it's also a ghost. Why? To live with ghost. We have to live with reality, and that is right mindfulness. So if you have a friend who suffer, who shed tears, who have strong emotions, when situations are safe, you have to help him, to help her. My dear friend, you are on safe ground. Everything is okay now. Why do you continue to suffer? Don't go back to the past. It's only a phantom. It's unreal. And every time we are aware that these are only movies and pictures, not reality, we are free. And that is the practice of mindfulness. Yesterday we spoke about many pairs of opposites as views, like the views of being and the views of non-being, the view of birth and of death. This morning when we speak about the cloud and the sheet of paper, we learned that the nature of the cloud as well as the nature of the sheet of paper is the nature of no birth and no death. Overcoming the notion of birth and death, and you have non-fear. The notion of being and the notion of non-being also can create a lot of fear. A right view consists in overcoming both notions, being and non-being. And it is possible to observe, to meditate in order to overcome. Suppose we speak about kiếm cho thầy cái độc quyền. We speak about the little flame that the match can produce. And we can do a little meditation on the flame about the notion of being and non-being. We know that it is possible to help the flame to manifest. There are conditions so that the flame can manifest as a flame. Before the sheet of paper appears, we know that the sheet of paper has been there in its condition. So we know that the flame is hidden somewhere in the matchbox. And we know that the flame is hidden also outside of matchbox. Because out here there is oxygen. And oxygen is a very important condition for the flame to manifest. Without oxygen, the flame cannot manifest. And my finger may serve as one of the causes, one of the conditions to help the flame manifest. So we can already talk to the flame. My dear little flame, I know you are there somewhere. Manifest yourself so that I can see. We know that you are already there, even if you don't perceive you in the form of a flame. So before the manifestation of the flame, should we qualify it as non-existing, non-being? No. With our practice of looking deeply, we see that everything manifests based on conditions. This flower, she comes from a seed, from a cutting, from the soil, from the sunshine, from the cloud, from the gardener, etc. And she is made of flower elements. If we send back the cloud to the sky, if we send back the soil to the earth, if we send back the seed, there's no flower left. So a flower is made only of non-flower elements. And looking into the flower, you can see all the conditions that have come together and help the flower to manifest. A flower cannot exist outside of her conditions. So the flame is the same. When conditions are sufficient, the flame manifests. So it is possible for a meditator to already see the flame before its manifestation. That is why I say, my dear flame, I know you are somewhere there already. So please manifest. And the flame tells us, it's okay. Thầy, the Sangha, if you help, I will. If you help me with the last condition, I will manifest. And then we are providing the last conditions, which is a movement of my fingers, and the flame is manifested. So you have the tendency to call the flame existing now. The flame is in the realm of being. But we tend to think also that before manifesting, the flame belongs to the realm of non-being. But reality transcends both notion being and non-being. Because we already know that before manifesting in its form, the flame already is there in its condition. So it is very important to see, to recognize the wrong view. Suppose this is representing time, and this point represents birth, and this point represents death. When someone is born from B, we believe that before the segment before B is belong to non-being of that person. That person did not exist before B. And when that person is born, we make a birth certificate. We certify that this person existed. So this person entered the realm of being. And 100 years later, hopefully, when that person comes to D, and then she passed from being to non-being once again. So that's our idea of lifespan. We only exist from B and D. Before that, it was non-being. So our idea is that from non-being, we can pass into being. And from being, we can pass into non-being again. But when we meditate on the cloud, we see that it's wrong. A cloud has never passed from non-being to being. And when the cloud disappears in the sky, it does not pass from being to non-being. It continues always. So the nature of the cloud is nature of no birth and no death. So the nature of your beloved one is like that. And you are like that also. And when you transcend the notion, the view of being and non-being, you get the right view. You get the right view. And that is why we have said that right view is the absence of all views, including the view of birth and death, being and non-being, permanence and annihilation. Suppose I want to light this candle using another candle. and I produce another flame. And I would like to ask you, my dear friends, this question, as whether this flame, second flame, is the same flame with the other, or a totally different flame. That is meditation. When you take the family album and look for your picture when you were 5 years old, you see that the little boy or the little girl is so different from you now. Are you the same with that little girl? Or are you a different person? You look so different. As far as form is concerned, feelings, you have very different feelings, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. You are quite different from that little girl, that little boy. So are you the same with that little girl, or you are a totally different person? So that is another set of notions called sameness, otherness. Not one, not a different one. Not the same, not a different, totally different one. The other day we spoke about the seed of corn and the young plant of corn. And we can ask the young plant of corn, are you the same with the seed of corn that I planted before? Or are you a totally different entity? The answer must be, you are neither the same nor a different one. You are neither the same with that little girl in the picture, but you are not entirely a different person. So the notion of sameness and otherness is also a couple of notions that you have to transcend in order to get the right view. The other day we spoke about the Father and the Son. The Son might believe that he is a totally different person. It's like the plant of corn does not believe that he has come from a seed of corn. But the hard fact is the Son is the continuation of the Father, and he is his Father. It's like the plant of corn is the continuation of the seed of corn. He is the seed of corn. And the fact is that the notion of sameness and otherness should be transcended for you to see the truth. Now we come to a pair of notions that is so crucial in our studies of right view, subject and object. When we speak of a perception, in fact, in the Sutra of Mindful Breathing, there are 4 exercises of mindful breathing to help with our perception, to correct our perception, to transcend all wrong perceptions so that we can get the right view. And that's the last 4 exercises of mindful breathing. Hopefully we have the time to treat these 4 last exercises. We usually believe that there is consciousness, which is the subject of perception, and the world out there as the object of our perception. And these 2 things are different. There is consciousness in here, and there is the world out there as object of our consciousness. And science, philosophy and science begin by that. And in the Buddha's teaching, that is the basic error. This is very important in the teaching of the Buddha. When you practice mindful breathing in, I'm aware of my in-breath. You practice in such a way that you are no longer an observer. You practice in such a way that you come your in-breath. You become a participant, no longer outside observer. In the teaching of the Buddha, you see that there are 6 sense organs, which is eyes, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Mind is also an organ, mental, our mental consciousness. These 5 are rather physiological, and this is mental. And the object of eyes is form, sound, smell, taste, touch, and please help. Dharma. In Buddhism, Dharma with a capital D means the teaching of the Buddha. And Dharma with the little d means object of the mind. Object of the mind. Not an objective reality. The world is just the object of mind. So the 12 include everything. In fact, we are taught that eyes and form bring about eyes consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and mind consciousness. Mind consciousness include object and subject. When we perceive something, that something is the object of our consciousness. This is subject, this is object, and subject and object, they manifest at the same time and together. So in the Buddhist literature, when you hear the word Dharma, you have to understand right away that it is the object of mind and not an objective reality outside. When you see a mountain, that mountain is the object of your perception, of your mind, not something separate from your consciousness. This is very important, because to see always to see something. Always means to see something. To hear means always to hear something. You cannot hear nothing. You have to hear something, you have to see something, you have to think of something. And the mind, the object of mind can be form, sound, smell, taste, touch, whatever. An idea, an image, and so on. So if you believe that there is a subjective consciousness that exists separately from the object of your consciousness, if you believe that there is an external world that exists separately from your consciousness, you are caught in a kind of error called a double grasping. Because you are caught by this and by this as 2 different things. So right view is the possibility, is possible only when you overcome the view of subject and object as 2 separate entities. I think modern science is on the verge of touching this truth. Many scientists began to speak about you can no longer remain an observer standing outside. You have to go in. You have to become a participant in order to hope, to understand something. And the world, you think that is something that is not you. The world that you observe is yourself. The mountain, the river, the sky, the stars, everything is the object of your consciousness. Is your consciousness. They say that sometimes appear like a wave, and sometimes else appear like a particle. According to our way of inquiry. If we inquire in such a way, and then in terms of particle, it appears to us as a particle. But we inquire in terms of wave, and then that particle will appear to us as a wave. So it is possible to call it whether a wave or a particle. And that particle can be everywhere at the same time. It's like your mind. There's a well-known British astronomer, physicist, Arthur Stanley Eddington. He said something like this: we are on a trip to discover, and we come to a shore. We are able to reach a shore of the unknown, a place where nobody has been there. And we are very surprised to see the footprints of someone left there. Before that, we didn't believe that anyone has come here, because this is the territory of the unknown. And yet, someone has left his footprints there. So surprising. So we come to have a deep look, and we discover how strange it is our own footprints. As the way a modern physicist said, the world, the so-called objective world, it is our mind. It's the object of our mind. And the Buddha said it in the very beginning. Dharma is the object of mind. In the Sutra on the four foundations of mindfulness, you study four realms: body, feelings, mind, and object of mind. Not reality, not objective reality. Scientists of our time are making effort in order to overcome what we call it double grasping. And if scientists can overcome the double grasping, if they no longer discriminate between the consciousness in here and the reality of the world out there, and then they have a chance. When we meet the terrorist, we see that he has the intention to punish, to kill. And we tell him that it's not good killing. But he doesn't listen to us. There must be a way of helping him to see that killing is not right. So the first mindfulness training is to protect life and not to kill. But if we just advise people not to kill, that may not be enough. You have to inspire them. You have to help them to understand that killing someone is killing yourself. If you are inhabited by the insight of interbeing, you know that killing someone is killing yourself. And that is why the first mindfulness training, not to kill, to always protect life, should not be just a commandment. Someone tell you that is a good thing to do, but you have to understand why you should not do it. Because if you touch the insight of interbeing, if you are free of the double grasping, and you see very clearly that killing him is to kill yourself, and the intention to kill is no longer there. Until you help the terrorist to see that, you cannot transform his anger, his suffering. Because he thinks that killing and destroying is the only way to get a relief. You have to punish, because that is your enemy. That is the enemy of mankind. That is the enemy of your civilization, and so on. So that is why we have to present the first mindfulness training in such a way that help people to see that fanaticism, to be caught in a view, to be caught in ideology or an idea, you can be a killer. Because you believe that killing is good. Killing is something you need. And a person who is free from all views, a person who is capable of seeing that everything is everything else, will have never the desire to kill anymore. So you don't have to enforce. And that is why the mindfulness trainings have to be presented in such a way that can help the people to get the insight of interbeing. They can help the people to see that, to be caught in a view, whether that is a doctrine, an ideology, or a dogma, you are still caught in the double grasping. You are not free, and your action cannot be right. Otherwise, the person will continue to think, to believe that his action is right, in the name of God, in the name of the best of ideologies, in the name of best view. And in the Buddhist tradition, as we have seen it, right view is the absence, is the removal of all views. So our working together for a global ethic should be in a line of thinking that our ethic should be an ethic without dogmas, without views. And the Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra is the beacon, it's the light that shines on it. You have to transcend all kinds of views in order to have the real insight. And with that insight, there will be non-discrimination, tolerance, brotherhood, sisterhood. And then the practice of the 5 mindfulness trainings will be true practice. There is no one imposing the trainings on us, asking us to practice, because we see that that is our path, that is our joy, that is our compassion, that is our love.